Is there a greater vehicle than the Vauxhall Astra? So, my project car now, I can actually spend some time on it. I have got the following: a new rocker cover, new timing belt kit, new variable valve timing gears for the end of the cams, a service kit. I've got the new hose from Vauxhall to replace the bodged assembly here that got me out the shit the other week. Spark plugs and an exhaust, and then hopefully that is all it needs. So yeah, let's get to it. I'll start by doing the cam belt and the VVT gears. So the first job I'm going to do is the timing belt and the VVT gears. So first job I've got to do is take this off. This is the rocker cover. There's you follow the ring of bolts, there's a couple under here as well. So this coil pack has to come out, take the bolts out. There's a breather here that has to come off. And then I can show you where all the locking tools go to lock the camshafts. Right, I've got my microphone on again, so hopefully you can hear me. So I'm going to get this coil pack plug off first. That's the coil pack. Hopefully you can still hear me okay. I won't be able to know until when I watch the video back. That bolt was loose anyway. Okay, hopefully this comes off all right. Get that breather off. Okay. The common fault on these as well, which I think may be causing my fuel trim issue as well. So there's a video I did on that, so you can look back and find that. There's a breather in there that fails, and it can cause problems with misfiring at idle, or if it gets really bad, the diaphragm split quite a lot, you'll actually it'll cause the car to cut out when you come to a stop at traffic lights and give difficulty starting the engine. So what I'll show you now, I want to get the engine in the timed position. So the way we do that is that there's a bar that slots into the end of the camshafts here. So if I turn the engine round, you'll be able to see these grooves here a bit better. Hopefully I can zoom in a bit. So the locking tool will only go in one way because these slots are offset, because it stops you timing the engine 180 degrees out. And then on the crank there's just an arrow that lines up with a mark on the bottom, but I'll show you that as I go along. So I'll turn the engine over and I'll show you the right position for these slots in here. Okay, so this is the crank pulley here. That's an E18 Torx bolt there. Now the actual timing mark is behind this pulley, so for the purpose of the video and to show you where it is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tension off the belt, the alternator belt, lock it off, take this pulley off, and then I can show you where the timing marks are and then how that relates to the camshafts at the top. Right, so I was about to do a video to show you how you take the alternator belt tensioner and the belt off. So I thought, right, to make it easier to show you, I'll take this engine mount and everything off, give you loads of room, loads of light. So I thought, I'll take this cam belt cover off while I'm up here. Taking the other bolt there out fine. Got the tool on there, and because nothing's ever just fucking straightforward, I want to try and show you, if I can, why this screw isn't coming out here. So there's basically like a captive nut in the cover. So if you can just see here, when I try and take this nut out, that nut's just spinning, so it's not coming out. That nut's not supposed to spin, which allows the screw to come out. So now I've got to try and sort that out now. Fucking brilliant. Right, so I've got the cover off. That's where the other screw comes out, nice and easy. This one, I've got a feeling it's been off before and someone's just fucked it and left it. So that's something else I'm going to sort out. So there we go, that's off, which now shows you where the timing belt is. That's the top bit of the timing belt. I'm also going to replace these camshaft phasers, or VVT pulleys, VVT gears, whatever you want to fucking call them. I don't really care, because there is a little bit of a knocking noise, and it is a common thing with these. However, it looks like it may have had some in the past, perhaps, because there's a bit of wear on these plugs here that hold the oil in. So, yeah, but better safe than sorry, eh? Right, now I've got that cover off, I'm going to take this engine mount off. I've got the camera tripod balanced in a really precarious position, so I am hoping that the camera's not going to fall off as I do this. The engine's supported with the jack. Okay, last one. There we are. Hopefully the camera managed to pick all that up. So this now comes off. I'll put the bolts that came out the right place, put them there. This one was a nut, which located it there. And then there's two bolts here. I like to try and put things back where they came from so that you know where things go when you put it back together. And yeah, now I've got to get, I don't know if you can see it, I need to get this bit here off now. So I'll jack the engine up. It gives me access to a couple of bolts. That one, there's one a bit further down, and then I can get a better view then to show you how the auxiliary belt tensioner works. Right, hopefully it's a bit tight trying to film this with the camera and do this at the same time. So I'm hoping I can sort of show you how this you take the tension off this belt. So you get a 19mm 12-point socket on there. Make sure it's on all the way, and then you need to take that tension off the belt. So you see that moving, and then what you can do, I've just got a little screw here, push that in, and that keeps the tension off the belt, so you can let go of the ratchet now. You see that belt's now loose, so you can now take that off without having to carry on trying to hold the tension off. So that little pin there locks it off, so you can get this off. Now what I'm going to do, I'll take this crank pulley bolt out, and then I'll show you where the engine timing marks are for the crank, because they're behind this pulley. Okay, so it's an E18 socket, this. Get the impact right on there. Okay, the timing belt kit does come with a new crank pulley as well. Big washer on it. Now what you can see here is the timing marks. So just there's an arrow on the casting of the engine block, and on here, there's a mark there that you can see that has to line up with that. Now, because the crankshaft turns at twice the speed that the camshafts do, there's a 50% chance that when you get this mark round, the camshafts will actually be 180 degrees out. So what you need to do is turn this engine clockwise by putting the bolt back in here, turn it over with a bar, bring this mark round to this point here, and then we'll check the camshafts to see if they're 180 degrees out. If they are, we rotate it again, and then that'll allow us to get the locking tool in to the end of the camshaft. Okay, so I've taken the bottom timing cover off as well that was behind here, and I've taken the tensioner off just to give you a better view. So like I said before, you want this mark here to come round and line up with that this sort of bottom arrow pointer mark here that you can see. So I'll turn the engine over. Make sure you do it clockwise. Make sure you turn the ratchet at the right fucking setting as well. I'm a dickhead. Okay, you'll feel it go tight and then loose, and that's just normal because I've got the spark plugs in, so that's just a normal engine compression there. Right, where's that mark? I can't quite see. Okay, so the mark's here now. And hopefully, okay, nearly there. Let's get the torch under there. There we go, that's a bit better. Okay, so that there is now lined up with that arrow. So what we're going to look for now is to make sure that the camshafts are in the position ready for the lock-in tool, which they're not. So I'm quite glad that they're not, because it'll allow me to show you. Just take the camera off the tripod. So these grooves here are where the lock-in tool sits. There's a bar that sort of sits across here with a tang that sits in there and also sits in the line there. So this is why you can't get it wrong. So because that's slightly offset, I've now got to turn the engine over again another 360 degrees, which will turn this 180, which then means the bar can sit on here and then slide across into that tang there, and that is the top engine locked in the right position. Okay, so what I've done now is I've turned the engine over another 180 degrees, and you can now see that this slot in here is now higher up, which lines up with this top bit of the cylinder head here. So now the bar can go on there and slide into that. So I'll go and put that bar in now. I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so it just looks like that. What it does is it goes on there, and as you can see, I'm trying to do it one-handed, but what you can see here is that that one is about to go in, and actually this one is slightly on the pit, so the engine timing is actually ever so slightly out on this. So I'm going to have to mess about a little bit now to get this bar in and make sure the camshafts are locked in the correct position. Okay, so that's the camshaft locking tool in now, so you can see it sits on top of the cylinder head, and those tangs here push into the grooves on the end of the camshaft. I had to fuck around a little bit, and it's quite tricky doing it on your own. So I took the cam belt off, which would let me move these independently, because when the cam belt's on, you can't move that one independently or that one. So I took it off, moved this one ever so slightly, and then that got the bar in. So now I know the top end's timed, the bottom end is timed, I can then do a bit of a strip down of all the rest of the cam belt bits. I'll take the VVT gears off as well. I'm also going to take off this back cover here that had the knackered captive nut, you can see there. So in future, it's easier for someone to take the cover off if they have to, rather than just fucking bodge it and leave it. So that's that. I'll probably leave it there once I've done that, tonight. So I'll whiz these off and I'll show you what they are. Okay, so I'm going to take these dephaser pulleys off now, or variable valve timing gears, whatever you want to call them. These basically, when the engine gets to a certain RPM, I've explained it before when I did the Mini, had a similar sort of arrangement. But when you get to a certain RPM, this solenoid allows oil flow into here, which then advances the engine timing, gives you a little bit more peak power at higher RPM. So it's a T55 Torx bit to undo that and that. These are oil filled, so when you undo this, there will be some oil come out, so that's why I've got a bit of a rag here. And then there's another bolt in there that will then, that holds these on. Now they're not keyed, so they are floating as well. And if you notice on these, they do have some little marks here and here. Now I can tell these aren't genuine Vauxhall ones because the genuine one has more of a dimple than a mark as such there. And it is normal for these to be slightly out of alignment when you put them on. Although, because they're not keyed, I don't think it matters. I may be wrong, but I always put them on the way that I think they should go on, and I've never had any trouble. So I get these off, and then I'll show you the bolts behind there. Okay, so I've taken the plugs off, I've taken the bolts out. I'll show you what I mean by the fact that these are floating pulleys. No keyway on them, so they don't actually lock into a certain position. So there's one in the bucket. The other one. You also need to replace these plastic stents that are in there as well. But I'm going to get this cover off. You can see a bit better now. That's where that nut was spinning inside there, which was stopping me get the timing cover off. So I had to sort of push it through in the end. Anyway, I've also drained the engine oil. You wouldn't think it looking at what's coming out of here, but effectively that solenoid there is what opens up at a certain RPM, allows oil to come through here into that pulley, gear, sprocket, whatever you want to call it, and that then advances the timing and gives you more power. So I'll get that off, and then I'll leave that there for tonight now and carry on tomorrow. Right, one more promise. I know I said I was going to go to bed. This is that timing cover, the back one. So this is where that nut was spinning earlier, and it's because this is cracked. They're normally bonded in. So as you can see, that's a good one, and that one's fucked. So there'll be a part number on here somewhere to get a new one of these. I don't really want to bodge it and glue it back together because it's near the timing belt, and there's also a hole in it there as well. Looks like someone's fucked it anyway. So yeah, phone Vauxhall, and I'll get a new one. Oh, there we go. There's a part number there. So I'll have a look at that. Anyway, back tomorrow. Well, it seems to have stopped raining for now, which means I can carry on with my Astra project. So where I got to last time was I stripped everything down. I had to take the plastic cover here for the rear of the timing belt off, or the rear timing belt cover, because that was damaged, so I got a new one. The water pump on these is driven separately to the timing belt, so I'm going to change the water pump for a new one as well. Not sure why this one has an extra wide pulley. I don't know whether this pulley used to drive some sort of ancillary thing. Not really sure. I've never seen one with one this wide before. The only thing I can think of was maybe someone had something else that ran off it. Not sure. There's no evidence of it anywhere. You know, I know like police cars and stuff might have an extra alternator or something. I don't know. Not really sure. If anyone knows why this water pump's got an extra wide pulley, let me know. So I'm going to jack the engine up, which will give me access to these bolts here. If you can see it. These 3 bolts here. Take the pulley off, and then that will give me access to the bolts behind there, which will let me get the water pump off. Okay, so that pulley's off, which means I can get these water pump bolts out now. So, not very good. That bolt wasn't very tight. Just check. I wonder if any of these are finger tight. And they weren't very tight at all. Hang on, let's try the others. A bit tighter. And that one. this with the other hand. There we go, there's one more at the bottom down there. Okay, try and do this without dropping the bolts out. So you get the idea. Only one, two, three, four, 5 bolts that hold the water pump on. So I'll just pause this now while I undo these, and then I'll show you what happens when you knock it off. Okay, that's all the bolts out of the water pump. Oh, that came off easier than I thought. So I've got a bucket under there to try and catch what I can. Here's the old water pump. One of the common problems you can get, particularly with these ones with plastic impellers on them, is it can look like the water pump's driving from the outside, so the belt will be running it, it'll be running the pulley, but this could be spinning, it could have come off that spindle inside. So if you're not getting any flow, it could be that. Right, the water pump pulley is back on, so now I'm going to get the rear cover for the timing belt back on. So this is my new one. The problem I had with the old one was when you went to put the front timing belt cover on, it's supposed to screw into that hole there. On this one, the sort of captive nut thing was missing and this was broke. So it's a bit of a, well, there you go, just snapped off the rest of the way. So I'll just show you the difference. So that one's upside down. So obviously that is supposed to be there. Obviously that's what it's supposed to look like. So it's only 4 bolts to get this warlock back on. I'll show you where this goes. Off on my jollies through the garage. So this rear cover, if you remember, goes on here. So it goes on there and then it screws in with 4 screws, which I can't do whilst trying to film. So I will get that on now and then I'll show you next. Right, that is the rear cover for the timing belt back in now. I'll tell you what, one of the greatest tools I've ever got is this 1/4" Milwaukee electric ratchet. It's long reach, it's fucking amazing. Anyway, so next thing really, I suppose, is start getting the timing belt and stuff back on. Water pump's done. Uh-oh, here comes trouble. You right, Amy?
It rained on us.
It rained on you? Where? Out at the back?
Yeah, Belle sprayed the hose everywhere.
Oh, did she? Oh, okay. Well, right, anyway, I'm talking about a timing belt on this. Are you interested in timing belts?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure you are. Yep, so got to put the timing belt and the pulleys and stuff back on next, so I'll start doing that. Right, so here's the new tensioner for the timing belt, the new pulley, idler pulley, and the new bolts for it. So Belle's going to tell you all about that one, aren't you? Go on then, what are they?
A circle-shaped tensioner. That's a round one. That's a round pulley.
Right, give it here, you.
And
Right, let's get these. Let's get these back on then. Right, so we've got these in. What are these, Belle?
The tensioner and the pulley.
Yeah, and now we need to fit
The
things on here. So what are these?
actuator.
That's it, camshaft actuators. So those are part of the variable valve timing, aren't they, Belle?
Yes. We don't know.
Right, we'll get these on
We
anyway,
don't know.
and then we can start getting the cam belt on. Right, I'm back again. So I gave up the other night because it got a bit dark and cold and I couldn't be bothered. So where I got up to last time is I got these cam adjusters on, but they're not torqued up yet. So I need to torque these bolts up. You need to hold the camshaft with a spanner while you do it, otherwise you can put strain on them, or you can bend the bar and potentially, if you don't use a spanner to hold the cam still, if this bends, you can actually break a piece of the camshaft off, and that's got the reluctor ring on that the camshaft sensor looks at, so your car won't start if you break it. So I'll get these torqued up, I think, and I'll double check. I think it's 120 Newton meters, and then there's a couple of angle tightens, so I'll double check what they are, but they are pretty tight. But I say, because these aren't a keyed pulley and they're a floating one, which means there's no key way for them to sort of locate onto, it's actually the friction of the bolt, or the tension of the bolt, the torque of the bolt, whatever you want to say, that holds these in place and stops them from spinning wildly out of control. So I'll do that, and then I can put the timing belt itself back on. Right, So these are now torqued up. I was talking shit before, it wasn't 120 Newton meters, it was 65 Newton meters, then angle at 120, and then plus 15. So those are done now. I get the oil plug covers back on, and then I can get the timing belt on. If you want to know what size tool you need for that, it is a T55 Torx bit. Okay, these are the little caps that go on the end of here. So I just lubricate the O-ring on there a little bit as well, so it doesn't snag. So these keep the oil in the pulley, actuator, sprocket, whatever you feel like calling it. So get these in. These only need to be nipped up. Okay, and that'll stop any oil coming out. All these are just covers to, they keep the oil in, but they also give you access to the bolt that helps take these off. Right, so cam belt can go on now. Right, so the timing belt has to go back on down the bottom pulley there, and obviously all around the idler, the tensioner and the sprockets. Some old cam belts used to have like a direction arrow on that would point the same way the engine would run. There's no arrows on these, so I just fit them so the writing's on the right way. so the writing's sort of not facing away from you. So when you get this on, where you can try and film this. When you want to get the belt on, you release the tension on here. It's spring loaded. Put the belt on, and then you can let go of that. There's no sort of marks on these like some cam belts have, where you sort of set the tension manually and then lock it off. This is just on a spring loaded plunger. So I can't do this single-handedly, so I'll get this on and then I'll show you. Okay, that's the timing belt now in place. What I was trying to explain before with this tensioner, you'll thread the belt all the way around to keep all the slack on this side, and then to slide the belt over the tensioner, you release the tension on this. This gives you a bit more room. I won't do it all the way now, but effectively you pull that, take the tension off, and you can slide the belt on. Also make sure the timing marks along the bottom still line up on the crank and the engine casting, so as you can see they're lined up. So now what I'll do, if I'm not interrupted by children, is I'll take the locking tools out, take these out, or drop them, whatever you want to do, and then take the bar out for the camshaft. Might have to tap that out. Turn the engine over twice, make sure the timing tools can lock back in again, then I know nothing has slipped, and that's it. And it also makes sure that you've got you have timed it right, you're not butting pistons against valves and that sort of thing. So I'll do that now, and then really it's a case of getting the bottom timing belt cover on the pulley, the middle cover bit, top cover, engine mount, all that sort of stuff back on. So timing belt's back on. Things to go on in order are bottom timing belt cover, the pulley or the crank pulley, the middle timing belt cover, top timing belt cover, the belt, the auxiliary belt tensioner, the engine mount bracket, the engine mount itself, and then that's all that side of the engine back together, which then leaves me with the rocker cover. So I've got to put the kids to bed in a minute, so I might leave that there for now, and then I can get the rest of this back together tomorrow night. But I just wanted to show you what's left to go on. Right, the Astra. I didn't bother getting a video of putting all this stuff back on because it's boring. So all I've got left to do on the top end now, apart from a service, change the spark plugs, all that sort of stuff. I've got a new rocker cover to go on there. I've got a new battery to go on, and I've got a new exhaust system to go on. This coolant hose we had to bodge the other week to get me home, so I've got the new genuine one to go on there as well. Right, something a bit interesting, if you're a nerd like me, taking the spark plugs out of this, and what I found was, number one, had a crack in it, in the body. Now it had a slight misfire on idle, but seemed alright driving, but normally when you get a cracked plug you'll get quite a bad misfire. under load and stuff like that, but I didn't have that. But so I don't know if that was causing my misfire. I'm not sure. I don't think it is, because my fuel trims pointed more towards an air leak, but just thought that was interesting. I took this out, had a crack in it, I gave it a flick, and this bit dropped off. But anyway, putting some new ones in now anyway.